What's going on, YouTube family? Today we're going to be talking about some crazy stuff. We're going to be talking about lease-to-own programs. Now, leasing new cars is nothing new. It's been around for decades. It's a way to make cars more affordable for regular people, or if you want to buy a car every 2 to 3 years. But it is also a trap. It's designed to basically trick you into buying the car for under market, get a cheaper payment, but if you put too many miles on it or you beat it up and scratch it, when you go to take it back in, you're going to wind up paying thousands of dollars out of your pocket to give back the car. But if you wind up spending all that money, you might as well keep it, and that's how they trick you into buying these cars. So that was one of the leasing options that new cars did. Today, we're actually going to be talking about used car leases. This is something that's popping up more and more as affordability basically puts a stranglehold on people's finances. People can afford these $1,000 to $2,000 monthly car payments for regular cars. We're not talking Ferraris and Lambos. We're talking Tahoes, trucks, and some luxury American vehicles, which is absolutely insane. But that's where we're at today. And I've got tons of messages from a lot of followers saying that, they see all these lease-to-own programs, dealerships are pushing this really, really hard. What does this all mean? So there are a few different types of programs when it comes to leasing used vehicles. One that I like to use is what's called Luxury Lease Partners. It's actually one of the sponsors of the channel. Shout out to those guys. They actually do leases for exotic and classic cars. The reason they do leases is so this way, if you own a business or something else, you can write off the taxes. It's an affordable way to get multiple vehicles. So it's something that we do on the high end of lending. But what we're going to be talking about today is typically towards the middle or lower tier of financing. Now, there was this thing called buy here, pay here. This is where when you buy a car at a dealership, you make the payments there as well. A lot of times because maybe the customer couldn't qualify for the car, no bank wanted to finance them, whatever the case is, you had to finance the vehicle there at that physical location. Because of this, you get no reporting to your credit bureaus, you have to put a bigger down payment, and you have to pay bigger monthly payments as well because you have to offset the risk. Just like banks, if the owner of this facility is going to take on the risk, they're going to charge you with more interest and more fees and everything else to make sure that they're making their money. But then on top of that, they're going to be very strict when it comes to payment schedules or if you have lapse of insurance or anything like that. And so a lot of these buy here, pay here companies are basically designed to take your money and snatch up your car if you ever become late. But don't get me wrong, not all buy here, pay here lots are bad. One thing you have to remember, everybody earns their credit score. So before you guys jump in the comments and like buy here, pay here dealers are shady or dealers are shady in general, if you haven't paid any of your bills and you had 3 cars repoed, the only chance for you getting a car is a buy here, pay here dealer. I talk a lot about how the economy is reflecting 2008. If it wasn't for a lot of the buy here, pay here's in 2008, these people wouldn't have cars. So once all these repos start popping off, guess who's going to finance these people? It's going to be the buy here, pay here lots. But a lot of those guys were older guys that retired because you got to have money to do buy here, pay here. So if you buy a car from me, I have to pay the sales tax up front, have to pay my sales guy, and then I'm basically waiting for you to hopefully make enough payments where I can get out of the car. And especially nowadays, nobody wants to take accountability for anything. If the car breaks, has any issues, they just want to give it back and walk away. So it's making it very hard for these guys to make money. So this gave birth to a new program, which is leasing, or buy here, pay here lease, or lease to own, or lease to rent. There's a bunch of these ways. But basically, it makes buying a used car more affordable. And it's less risky for the dealer, but more risky for the consumer. Here's a few reasons why. As a dealer, if I do buy here, pay here, I have to pay the sales tax all up front. So if you buy a $20,000 car and I have to pay, let's say, $2,200 in sales tax, and you don't make the first payment, in some states, I lose that sales tax money. It's gone. And so now I lost money. I have to go repo that car and bring that money, or that car and that money back to the dealership if I can. But with leasing, it's completely separate. We take a small monthly chunk out of your payment to pay sales tax. And that's why you see so many of these dealers and people moving towards that. This is a great way where customers can get into a car. Remember, we have an affordability crisis. They can't give up maybe $2,000, $3,000 like they could during the pandemic. Now we're working with people at maybe $1,500, $2,000. They can put themselves into one of these affordable cars because they don't have to cover sales tax and all this other stuff. They just have to cover enough chunk of the money down where the dealer feels comfortable letting the car go. Now, here are some of the bad things that go along with lease to own. It all depends on your money factor and your structure. Now, remember, leases we're designed to kind of screw the customer on the back end. Same thing when it comes to leases, when it comes to used cars. They're going to be very back end loaded. There's going to be something there that's going to cause you to lose the car. So let's say you buy a $20,000 car, okay? They're going to take, let's say, 60% of that or 40% of that, depending on how they broker it up. And they'll amortize, let's say, that 40% over 24 months. So you're like, wow, I got a really low payment. I'm going to take this car and I'm going to own it. Your money factor could be, which is your interest when it comes to leases, could be somewhere around 20 to 28%. You're paying this low monthly payment, thinking everything is fine. At the end of the 24 months, payments due, dealership or the bank calls you, hey, you need $11,000 to pay us off. And you're like, well, no, I've been paying on the cars. I just want to keep paying my, let's say it's $300 a month. Nope, sorry, you have to either refinance it completely or pay cash. And they're hoping that you, one, don't have enough time to refinance it because people never really plan these things. Their whole goal is to force you to give them back the car. So those 2 years you were using it, hopefully you paid enough down where once these dealers paid all this money way over MSRP, they're hoping that over the next 2 years you pay that down, and when they repo the car back from you or when your lease is up, they get that car back at market value and they can go ahead and sell it to somebody else to get out of their woes. This is why you're going to see a lot of these programs pushed, especially nowadays, because all these dealers paid way too much money for these cars that are just simply not worth it. So if you paid $20,000 for a Jeep, let's say Rubicon, and it's only worth maybe $15,000 on paper, do you lose $5,000? Or do you take somebody's $5,000 down, sell it to them for a lease for 24 months, and hopefully in a year, maybe half a year, you'll get that car back, and then you can go ahead and resell it for whatever the market currently is bringing. And so a lot of dealers are taking their negative equity they buried themselves in and shuffling it off to the customer. So it's very important that if you do any of these used car leases, you need to find out a few of the following. First, what is your money factor, your interest for this financial or this finance option? It's very important because a lot of people think of money factor as, I guess, just simple interest or basic. It's not. You want to see if it's front loaded, back loaded, what the actual percentage rate is. They'll break it down to you in really weird formats. Just say, what am I paying for this car? Because remember, if you do an amortization of 24 months and your interest rate's really, really high and you don't know it, you think you're paying maybe 60% of the car, but you're only paying about 40%. The rest is going towards interest. So that's just a bigger balloon payment waiting for you down the road. So once you understand that, also, there are some things that require you to get maybe a service contract. There's a lot of leasing companies that want you to have maybe a $1,000 to $3,000 service contract. And if you don't maintain the vehicle, that's another reason why they could either cancel your contract, take your car, or another thing they can charge you money on. So leases are all about contracts. They're basically saying, we're going to give you this car, but you promise to pay, take care of, and do X, Y, and Z. If not, we're going to charge you for it down the road. That's why I tell a lot of people leasing is not a really good option if you drive a lot, if you have kids or something like that. I see it all the time. I used to love it when people would come in and try to lease like vans. And I'm thinking like these kids are going to destroy their van. They're going to try to trade it in 2 years thinking that they're going to get a new van. And then when they bring it in for inspection, the service department's going to whack them. You need new tires. All your seats are stained. And they're not going to shampoo them. They're going to order a new seat. They're going to order new tires. They're going to order, you know, if you dented the quarter panel, they're going to make you paint that and like blend the whole half of the car. It's a very big pain in the butt. And so now with all these leasing programs, people think that they're getting a great deal when they're really not. Also, if you started seeing out there, EVs are offering very aggressive leasing options for new and used. The reason is they can't sell these damn things. We could talk about EVs not selling till my face turns blue, but the simple fact is you've seen Tesla giving away, I think, brand new Model Ys for $600 a month, Lucid Airs for I think $600 or $700 a month as well. You know, back what they were selling for almost $150,000 a year and a half ago. So you're starting to see more of these leases pop up. It's just creative ways of financing to how to screw the customer. As long as you think if you're dealing with the automotive industry and all they're trying to do is take my money, then you're in the right mindset. So just go into that thinking that way and you won't get screwed. You'll be basically aware of, okay, what are they trying to do to take my money? How are they going to try to trick me into giving them my money? So like, let's just figure this out. So be careful when you sign some of these leases. If you are looking at doing maybe an exotic car or a classic car, definitely check out Luxury Lease Partners. They're a good group of guys, and their leases are very simple to understand, and they'll give you a breakdown of everything, what you need to do. When it comes to some of these other used car leases, there's lots of forums on Reddit and everything else, and if you want to share them with the group, you can post them in the comment section below. I'll try to read some of them and comment on them, but there are a lot of tricky things. You just need to make sure you take the time to read them, because remember, as this economy gets worse and worse, and I don't give a shit what the job numbers are. We all know the economy sucks right now. I've never seen so many companies close in the last 90 days and right now. And it's all retail, restaurants, stuff like that, because we're a consumer-based economy, and this just shows that our economy is getting worse. But as we see this going on, it's just going to get worse, and financing options are going to get more, I guess, harder to qualify for. And as this happens, banks are going to roll out some crazy programs just to keep the money moving. And so this is what you want to be aware of. Remember back in the day, ninja loans for home loans, they were just giving out loans for everybody. And then after that, they started asking for all this documentation. We're on that second leg of they've hit all the repos, they've gotten all the negative equity off of all these cars. The deficiencies and delinquencies have been record high. Banks are freaked out. They're not going to lend. So what's going to happen? They're going to turn to either independent dealers or franchise companies to do their own financing. Also, there are large companies out there that are coming out with lease-to-own options when it comes to financing. You're going to see them in some larger areas of these banks knocking on your door, asking you to sign up if you're a dealer. So my advice, you can take them on, you could sign them up, you could see how their programs work, but just make sure that it's not back-end loaded for the customer, but also it doesn't backload you as well, because some of these leases have thresholds where if you have so many leases default within a year, they require you to purchase that portfolio back from them. They're not going to tell you that, it's in the fine print, but you need to read this stuff, because like I said, not only customers are getting screwed, dealers are getting screwed as well. So we need to make sure we read the documentation, and if you don't understand how it works, ask questions, and if they can't answer them, don't do it. Remember, nobody's going to put a gun to your head forcing you to buy a car. Have some accountability for yourself and your actions. Don't do anything stupid. And like I said, you can see the prices coming down every single week. So just be patient. There's lots of deals out there. We just picked up 5 this week, and we're not even looking. People are just offering cars because people are getting out of them because they can't afford their rent. They can't afford their mortgage. Cars have to go. All these people on Turo with 3-4 cars, those are going away. I've seen guys that had like 6 Airbnbs here in Vegas. They're getting rid of their cars because Las Vegas is shutting down. You can't have that many Airbnbs anymore. So now they're getting rid of all the cars that are at those locations. So more and more of this stuff is going to trickle down, and supply is going to basically fill up. And we've already seen new car companies starting to drop prices, and now it's affecting the used car market and putting pressure on them. But anyways, I would love to know your opinion in the comment section below. Have you ever heard about the programs lease to own? Have you ever leased a used cars? Please let us know in the comments what company, how was your experience? Also, if you've ever leased a car and you've gotten screwed, let people know in the comment section below, because a lot of people get tricked into buying these brand new cars, you know, on a lease, and then they find out 2 years later that they wind up owning them for full retail, sometimes above retail. So don't do it. It's very important, but like I said, share your comments down below, and we'll see you next video.